If you think about MMA, one image immediately comes to mind. 8 sides, black fence, the UFC logo stamped right in the middle. But here's something a lot of fans don't realize. The UFC doesn't just use the octagon, they legally own it. So how did a cage become one of the most recognizable trademarks in sports? And why is the UFC the only major promotion allowed to call it the octagon? Well, the octagon goes all the way back to UFC 1 in 1993. From day one, the UFC wanted to look different from boxing and pro wrestling. Instead of ropes and a squared ring, they chose an 8-sided cage. It wasn't just for shock value, it solved real problems. Ropes let fighters fall out, corners can trap action. The fence kept fighters inside, kept the camera angles clean, and made the fights feel raw and contained. But just as important as function was image, the octagon instantly made the UFC stand out. You didn't need to explain what you were watching, the cage told the story. Over time, fans didn't just recognize the fights, they recognized the shape. The octagon became part of the UFC's identity before it was ever a legal asset. Here's where business comes in. You can't trademark a basic shape by itself. Anyone can draw an octagon. But what you can trademark is how that shape is used, presented, and associated with the brand. In the late 1990s, the UFC's original owners formally trademarked the name Octagon and the specific look and presentation of the cage in MMA competition. That means the UFC doesn't own the idea of 8 sides. They own the identity of the octagon as a fighting environment tied directly to their brand. So another promotion could technically build an 8-sided cage, but they can't call it the octagon. Market it the same way or make it look confusingly similar without risking legal action. That's why you see hexagons, circles, or modified cages in other promotions. It's not a coincidence, it's avoidance. From a business standpoint, the octagon is one of the smartest branding moves the UFC ever made. Think about it. You see the octagon, you think UFC. You hear step into the octagon, you think UFC. Video games, merch, posters, promos, all instantly recognizable. That's called brand association. It's incredibly valuable. It also creates separation. Boxing has rings, wrestling has rings, MMA has the octagon. Even though other promotions exist, the UFC owns the visual language of the sport. This trademark also gives the UFC leverage in licensing, in sponsorships, and in media deals. ESPN isn't just buying fights, they're buying a globally recognized product. The octagon isn't just a cage, it's intellectual property. The UFC defends the octagon for the same reason Apple defends the iPhone or Nike defends the swoosh. If everyone could call their cage an octagon, the brand would lose meaning. Confusion kills value. By controlling that imagery, the UFC itself positioned as the premier MMA organization, not just one of many. This is also why the UFC doesn't rush to collaborate with rival promotions. They don't need to. Their brand already owns the space. So the next time you see fighters walk out and the camera pans across the cage, remember, you're not just looking at fencing and canvas. You're looking at a trademark, a business strategy, and a symbol that helped the UFC separate itself from every other promotion on the planet. The octagon didn't just contain fights. It helped build an empire. If you like breakdowns of the business side of MMA, hit subscribe. There's a lot more going on behind the cage than most fans ever hear about. Thanks. Till next time.